What's going on, guys? Brady Gardner here, episode 49 of the Duck Boat Report. Patrick Donnelly's laughing. How are we doing today, Patrick?
We're good. I can't believe I usually got you to do that. We should make that a thing, and as long as we're kind of stuck like this, should just do a different stereotypical YouTube intro every show.
I mean, the corny YouTube intros are cracking us up to start the show, so it's always good to start on a good note. We're also here with Ethan Fuller, someone who always brightens the mood. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm good. I mean, I think that's a great idea. You could get some focus group testing going and maybe put out some Twitter polls about what YouTube style intro do you prefer the best to open the Duck Boat Report. I think there's potential for some interaction.
Alrighty.
Yeah, or you could just put out a set of two, pick one or the other the night before every show, and the results dictate what you open the show with.
All right. And the problem is I think we'd have three voters, 1, 2, 3, so... but we have a lot.
It's got to have a higher follow.
We have a lot of news to cover here. Obviously, no sports. It's now been 8 weeks since all sports have been on pause, but we still have sports news. So we'll jump right into it. Lead off thought. We've never really followed the structure here in quarantine, but we're going to do it today. Do you have a lead off thought, Patrick?
Yeah, kind of. Probably nothing we have that we went over on the docket. But, I mean, 2K is bringing back golf games.
Oh, yeah.
The golf video game scene could be back in full force this fall. They announced 2K21 for PGA Tour Golf. I don't know what the title before 2K21 will be. I'm assuming it's just PGA Tour Golf, something like that.
Yeah.
But for many years, we had the Tiger Woods PGA Tour EA Sports ones. Those were the pinnacle of golf games. Pun intended. And then we had the Rory McIlroy one, which is okay, a lot of people didn't like it, but hey, it's better than nothing. And then EA just stopped because the McIlroy game flopped because it wasn't Tiger. And then it's kind of been a dark age for golf video games. That we've had some people take a stab at it. I've heard the Golf Club 2 was okay. But hey, 2K's been killing the game lately, whether it's NBA or what have you, and they're bursting back onto the golf scene.
Yeah, very excited about that. I think we will definitely get good use out of it in the dorm room. Ethan, lead off thought from you.
I mean, first I wanted to kind of ask Patrick this question. What does a golf game look like? For me, as someone that does not know golf very well, all I've ever played is Wii Golf, which I imagine is not the same. How do controls work in a golf console controller game?
Okay, so I've never played it on the Xbox, or not the Xbox One, because I don't know if they had one for Xbox One aside from the Golf Club. But yeah, I don't know what the controls are specifically on the controller. I'm assuming it's a lot of up and down with the left stick or something like that.
Okay.
But when I played it on the Xbox 360, it had Kinect, which was good, which was also a little awkward just because Kinect and stuff like that just always has its bumps in the road.
Yeah.
And then on the Wii, it was kind of like Wii Sports. So
yeah,
I don't know what this is going to be playing with a controller, but I'm excited for it either way.
Yeah, the things controlling spin and distance, how's that all going to be? That's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm
Good
assuming
question.
aiming and controlling your spin will all be right stick.
Well, yeah, and if I remember correctly, in old games, it would be you would look ahead and place a target where you wanted the ball to go, and as long as you did the right motion, it would go right there. So I'm wondering if there will be a little more variability.
It's kind of like kicking off in Madden.
Yeah,
that's what I was
exactly.
wondering. Yeah,
which seems a little bit too easy sometimes. So maybe they'll change it up. Who knows?
I mean, I guess there's obviously in the game there's going to be wind, and weather.
True.
And when you're putting is going to be a whole different story. But I'm interested and I'm excited for it.
Same. All right, Ethan, your turn.
I guess I'll tee this one up for you guys. Haha. To keep it on golf. Again, I know nothing about golf, but all I've heard as far as sports coming back is that golf courses may potentially be opening. I don't know what it's like in New Hampshire because, again, I don't really keep an eye on it like you guys do, but I saw Shaughnessy tweeted out, a bunch of other people, including you guys, have discussed how it might be coming back soon. So, yeah, I guess I'll ask the question: Is this good? Is it time?
I think it's time for golf for sure.
Oh, it's absolutely time. I'm just itching to get out of the house. I know I know we can't rush things and stuff like that, but golf is the perfect social distancing sport.
Mm-hmm.
And in New Hampshire, I don't know if it's already or at least soon it's going to be like Maine where it's state residents only at courses.
Okay.
That's how it is in Rhode Island. Connecticut's open to everybody. I'm assuming Massachusetts will become state residents only at some point. Shaughnessy had the report today that Governor Baker was going to announce today that golf would come back. He did not. He said zilch about golf today. But some rumblings out there could happen very soon.
I would hope so.
As someone whose like entire financial status rests on working at a golf course, I'm very much rooting for it to come back.
Yeah, I think we all are. Even like I feel like the people who are kind of fringe golfers, like I'm getting more and more into it. But I think like even my brother who doesn't care that much would like to see golf courses open just because it's like something to do. No one has anything to do outside really.
Yeah.
So you just go out and play around a golf and it's a good way to take advantage of nice weather while staying socially distant. It's perfect.
And I guess I'm the hardcore golfer here from that perspective. It's like, all right, well, first of all, I probably would have played a couple rounds by now because like I would have been at school, but I would have been able to work it in, I bet. And now where I just wrapped up my semester, I have now nothing to do where I could be playing golf and working. And like just from like the hardcore golf perspective, like I got a new driver at the end of the summer last year. I took it to school, all my clubs to school, like to play, and we never played, which is like on me, because if I had them, I should have used them. But like this brand new, a lot of money on a golf club, and I haven't used it, and I just want to be able to use it in a real round for once, and I'm just stuck with it.
Yeah, but it seems like it's happening, and we've seen some positive, turnings. Obviously, you talk about Dan Shaughnessy of the Globe reporting that Governor Baker may open them up today, which would have been awesome. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
I mean, it wouldn't be like a drop of the hat immediately today. It would be like, oh, Friday or something.
Yeah, and I think he would be helping a lot of people out if he said Monday, because then he wouldn't have to put dads in a difficult spot where they would potentially be trying to make golf plans on Mother's Day, Sunday. That would be rough. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It seems like we're going to get golf back soon, though. And it's interesting, too, to see like what it's going to look like, because I actually golfed in Connecticut. I was down in Connecticut for the weekend, so my dad and I golfed. And it was interesting, like the way that they did it, because yes, they had modifications on the holes where the actual cup was shallower than usual. So sometimes the ball would, bounce in and out, but that it was a good putt. But it's easier to kind of reach in without, touching everything and getting the germs. And obviously you don't take the flag sticks out either. But other than that, it was all totally normal. And they had like a cart grill going around and like selling sodas and beers and stuff. And that was a little questionable to me.
Yeah.
They had golf carts, so who knows how well they're being disinfected. Like I can see the hesitations, but I also saw a lot of people being very careful about their social distancing, and a lot of people just out and about in general, which was great to see. People having a good time and trying to be a little bit normal, but in a safe way. And I think that's what golf kind of allows.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't experienced it, but from what I've heard, I think the course you played at might be a little bit of an outlier.
Definitely.
Hey, stats final this morning, outliers. That's what we do in stats.
Stats.
But I mean, from what I've heard, like whether it's New York on Long Island or in like bigger, more prominent places in Connecticut, like obviously it's the basics. You're not raking in the sand trap. You're not pulling the pins out. Huh?
I don't want to rake the sand traps.
Yeah,
I spend too much time in them and dig them all up.
Yeah, so like it's take the ball out of the sand trap. You don't have to touch the rake. You don't have to touch the pins. And a lot of it's been for the holes. It's like a PVC pipe instead of the actual cup, and like they raise it like an inch or two above where the hole is. So all you have to do is hit it.
Yeah.
Which makes putting easier. You could just nail it at it from 50 feet away and make it.
So I think Jordan Spieth had a hole-in-one that hit that, and it doesn't count.
And then like some things, it's like they put like a little ring around the hole, just like a little bump. Other places, like I saw on like Instagram, some have the contraption where like you just there's the way you can lift like a removable cup with your putter and the ball drops out, which is really cool.
I think that's gonna happen here at Foxborough. My sources tell me that might be in the works. So
that looks phenomenal. That's genius. But
a little hook, you just lift it, perfect.
I think it's super easy because whether you're walking, you're mostly completely far away from everyone on the course. So
yeah, Ethan, if golf comes back and that's the only thing we can do, can we get you out on the golf course?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't have a problem with it. It's going to be you guys when you're out there for 10 hours on a 9-hole round. So, and you lose half of your slate of golf balls. So, I'm okay with it. Just I hope you guys are.
It'll be great. I look forward to that happening. But yeah, golf is definitely the first sport that's coming back for the public. But the question is, which will be the first sport to come back professionally? And we had some news on that where Trevor Plouffe, former player, great name, had some inside access. Apparently, he's hearing from multiple sources. This is on Twitter. That on June 10th, Spring Training 2 will start. July 1st will be opening day, and all teams will be playing at their home ballparks. That seems interesting. I want your reactions before I go into mine.
I don't know what at their home ballpark means. Is this along that line of the 10-team divisions that we talked about last week?
Doesn't seem
or is
like
it just so it's back to like a standard traveling schedule?
Yep.
That kind of makes it a little sus for me. But I think they're being more reasonable. They're being increasingly reasonable if that's the true timeline. Again, I just don't know with the travel if that is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of just echoing what Ethan said. If it's those like funky divisions they floated out to limit travel, that works for me. If it's we got like the Angels coming to Boston, and like cross country travel and the logistics and the safety kind of is a question. But I think the timeline's fine. Like I remember like at the beginning of this, Ethan was saying it's like August or not at all. I was saying June, July. Brady was optimistic with June. I think we're seeing it's going to be a lot sooner than we expected. And like the June, July track seems very real.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I'm a little confused as to why we need Spring Training 2 to be from June 10th to the end of the month. Like 3 weeks for spring training? Like baseball's not a very taxing sport. If this were like NHL, definitely needs that much time because they need to, build up the stamina and the strength again. But like baseball, I feel like you should need a week for a couple practice games. And, you need to have off-field stuff, obviously, and throwing and swinging and, getting back into the swing of it. So many puns in this episode, sorry. Yeah, but I feel like you don't need 2/3 of a month for a second warm-up. I think you're going to want to get into it as soon as you can. Like, we're going to watch 3 weeks of spring training games. I feel like they're kind of missing out on a possibility to have normal games, maybe at a slightly lower quality, but the world is waiting for normal games, and it seems like they're kind of delaying that more than they might need to.
Yeah, 3 weeks for baseball. 3 weeks is a little long for me. I'd say 2 weeks is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
That way you can get like I don't know four games in. I don't know how many you play in 2 week span in spring training. And obviously plenty of time for practices. That first week's probably just like all conditioning. But like you said, basketball, hockey, those are gonna need at least like 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, and those seem like a further way away because obviously they're closer contact sports, and they did have an opportunity to get a lot of revenue this season already, so I don't think they're pushing the agenda as much as baseball is. But Ethan brought up the point.
I would disagree, but
yeah, you think that they're pushing as much as ever?
I would very much disagree on the revenue part.
Really? Baseball hasn't played any of their games.
Yeah, but I mean, you say like they made plenty of revenue and they'll be okay. It's no.
Not that they'll be okay, but they're a whole lot more okay than baseball is right now.
I guess. I mean, I was thinking just like if this is a worst case scenario, but if the playoffs don't happen in the NHL, you're looking at 1 to 1.2 billion in losses.
Yeah, and I'm sure baseball's number would be the same for half their regular season, which is why they're trying to hurry.
And like even then, like we're still gonna we're gonna have this abbreviated schedule in playoffs, and even then they'll play it out. We're going from a projected $84 million salary cap to just another flat 81.5. So I don't know. Yeah. I guess I got caught up in the phrasing of your sentence.
Sorry. Anyway, Ethan brought up the point of potentially, them going with these changed divisions, the 10-team, 3 divisions across Major League Baseball. And there's an interesting article that came out in the Boston Herald by Tom Keegan, and he suggested that they keep those real line divisions forever. And at first you're like, But then, the more I read it, the more I actually really liked this. So you'll forever have the East looking like Baltimore, Boston, Miami, New York Mets, New York Yankees, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Toronto, Washington. So kind of East Coast, dives a little bit inland at times, but for the most part, all the East, and obviously Central and West, spaced out differently. I kind of like it.
I like it too. I think it's going to be weirder because as far as scheduling goes, I guess that means you're getting less of your classic rivalry games. But if I'm thinking about the Red Sox in this case, obviously your rivals with the Yankees, but the Orioles, Rays, and Blue Jays, yeah, like you've had some back and forths over your history, but I wouldn't call any of those teams rivals. And so,
well, what rivals are the Red Sox missing out on there? I feel like they have those teams that they need in that division.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I really only think like the marquee games that you're getting less of are just games against the Yankees. And I think for scheduling and revenue purposes, they're going to put Yankees Red Sox games in as much as they can. And so I think that just gets to more balance and there's less problems with weak divisions. Like we've seen some really weak divisions in baseball over the last couple of years. And I think making it, yeah. And like making it a 10-team division gives more balance. And it also might be a better chance for those divisions to get like marquee national television games. And at the same time, if you're in a massive, like strong loaded division, you're going to get an easier schedule, which is always nice too. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and you talk about how you're going to be missing out on some of the teams you'd normally play, like the Mariners or the Angels, those AL teams out on the West Coast. But are you going to miss those West Coast trips to Seattle, LA, Oakland? Like that doesn't really do it for you as a Red Sox fan. And those are kind of the 10-day, 14-day stretches that on your calendar you just X off because they're all 10 p.m. starts. So why not replace those with games going to play the Marlins in Florida where they're still on the East Coast time, or the Nationals or the Pirates? Like I feel like there's more of a potential to stay within your time zone, and that's only better for viewers anywhere.
Yeah, and like as far as viewers go, it would help a lot of teams, like specifically the Marlins, to have the Red Sox and Yankees coming in more consistently, because like that ballpark's never empty. Shout out Derek Jeter for just ruining that franchise.
It's never full. It's always empty.
Always empty.
True. Wait, did I say full?
You said never empty.
Oh, whoops.
I was like,
never full.
Same with the Mets too.
Always empty. But like it helps, like whether it's you're thinking about attendance, Yankees and Red Sox going to Miami more often, or if like you're the Nationals and the Phillies or what have you there, like getting these teams you don't see that often, especially marquee names like the Yankees and the Red Sox, could I don't know, just appeals to me, I guess.
Or the Nationals fans, going over to Baltimore for a game, helping them fill that stadium. Like
imagine the rivalry between the Orioles and the Nationals we could get.
It would be great.
Yeah, all the local battles would be fantastic. Like you get the LA teams battling, you get the New York teams battling.
Miami versus Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think making it more regional and making the regional battles matter and be more common is a great idea.
Yeah, and it's only better for economies. We're going to be in a point certainly where economies are going to need some help. And so, you're going to have more of a potential for, let's say, Red Sox fans to take the family down to Pittsburgh to check out that great ballpark down there and see a game in a new city that's within driving distance or whatever. Like where otherwise you would have fans never going to see like the Red Sox play the Texas Rangers because, they're an AL team, but they're, in middle of nowhere. No Red Sox fans are ever going to go out of their way to go there. So I think there's a lot of potential with this plan, but it's going to need the baseball purists to step aside, and we all know how that goes. The other thing, too, is that the baseball always goes with, 2 Rookie of the Years, 2 MVPs, 2 Cy Youngs, NL, AL, so on. This would need them to go with either 3, 1 in each of the 3 divisions, or 1 across the entire league. Which one would you want to see?
I hope it's 1. I really hope it's 1. I think having a league winners is just dumb, and I would love for it to be 1.
Can you repeat it?
Oh, good. Well, so do you want an MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year of the East, Central, and West, or 1 to encapsulate all of the MLB? Ooh.
I don't know. I like the way the NFL and MLB have it now with NL and AL and AFC and NFC. Just because like the NFL where there's like so many like quality players, I guess like at the top of the food chain at least, and rosters are so big. But in the MLB, like I don't know where I'm going with this, but I mean I think there's potential there for maybe not West, East, and Central, but like maybe we see the NFL or the MLB, excuse me, do like we see in the NBA and NHL with 4 divisions and 2 conferences. Like maybe they just simplify it to that and keep the 2 leagues. But
Yeah.
again, I'm fine with the to the point of it, I guess. I'm fine with the 3, but it's like I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
That
And
is
it
kind of
also
interesting.
yeah.
Oh, that is kind of interesting thinking about all-star rosters because every other sports league it's like a 2-conference all-star roster, and I don't know how that would work with
Yeah, I
3
think at some point
conferences.
you'd have to think about getting into the conference or at least keeping the leagues and simplifying the divisions.
Right. And that was another thought. And that's exactly what I was going to say too, Ethan. So we're on that same level there. But that was brought up, I believe, on Zolak and Bertrand of 98.5 Sports Hub, where they talked about what could you do with the All-Star game. One idea was players under 30 versus players over 30, or whatever the median is. I think that's kind of cool. Or throwback game. If your team used to be in the AL, then you're the AL team. But if your team used to be in the NL, you're in the NL team. So kind of a tradition thing. I feel like there are ways to work it out. And also, if you so recall, in our sports journalism class, when I reworked every all-star game across sports, I suggested that you could have a little fun with it and do like wiffle ball games or something. I think you could do a 3-team round-robin wiffle ball tournament, and it would be great.
I mean, it
It'd
could
be
work.
like a players like challenge thing. It wouldn't be the actual all-star game, but I think you could make things work with 3 separate all-star teams. That's what I'm saying.
I think you can make it work. I think it's a lot simpler if you just have the traditional 2 teams.
Sure.
But I mean, the just going to the over 30 versus under 30, over 30 would get killed.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, the amount of players still producing at a high rate over the age of 30. I mean, it's a little different in baseball, but I mean, the amount of guys still at the top of their games over the age of 30 is minuscule compared to the guys at the top of their games 30 and under. Because I mean, we're getting to the point where we're realizing people's primes are no longer what we thought them to be, where it's 27 to like 32. We're realizing players' primes is this 21 to like 28.
Hmm.
You know?
Alrighty. I was Googling something else. I gotta say.
I know.
I gotta admit. I
I got
wasn't focused at
crickets.
all.
I didn't know if I was completely wrong or not.
No, I totally missed you. So that's okay. I was on to our next topic. If you guys are ready.
Oh, thanks, guys.
I was prepping for the next thing. I was hoping Ethan could carry it. And
I mean,
he
I
didn't.
can carry it. I wasn't sure if it was bouncing back, but I think that I mean, I think there you'd have to kind of work out the age thing. I think, yeah, as Patrick said, people are starting to realize that the league is trending younger a lot faster than they probably expected versus what baseball tradition has always been. Um, I think that in order for there to be more than 3 teams, you're really attacking the purists. And I think as much as I like a lot of those ideas, I don't think the purists are going to like the the celebration of the game kind of being a wiffle ball tournament as much as
Yeah.
I would like that to be it. But
Oh my god.
I don't know. I think just going back to like the original proposal, I've never been a fan of having 2 MVPs. So I would like there to be 1, and because you can't be a co-MVP. It's called most valuable player. And so I think having having 1 also opens it up for more discussion than having 2, I think.
Yeah. I think that's definitely true. Like everybody probably cares more about having one like distinct chosen player for every category. So I would like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
obviously this is all hypothetical, so we may never know. Patrick is back with a fancy background.
Yep. I guess I misspoke when I said my point on the NFL's like how they do it per conference. I meant to say how I like how it's an offensive player of the year and defensive player of the year. Because like defensive player of the year is pretty much just defensive MVP. But yeah, I mean, I like Ethan's point on purists. As long as like baseball purists like still have a voice, they always will have a voice. And like as long as Rob Manfred is the commissioner, these things will never happen.
It's a good point. So maybe we're all, we're just talking for talking nonsense right now. But where would we be during the quarantine if not for that? So, all right. I think that's enough on the return of sports for today, unless I missed anything.
Don't think so.
Okay. I wanted to get your thoughts on another point. 2 days ago, 3, 2, whatever. Don Shula, legendary NFL coach, passed away. He leads all coaches in history with 328 wins, which is an insane number. And obviously, when we talk about the greatest coach of all time, you get names like Lombardi and, whatever else. I feel like Shula sometimes gets downplayed in that. But you can't argue that number, 328. It's crazy. But obviously, when you're talking about the greatest coaches to ever have coached, Belichick has to come into the discussion. So it makes you, wonder if he's going to be able to catch up to that 328. He's currently at 273. So do you think that Bill Belichick can catch Shula? That's 55 games separated, by the way.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so unless he coaches well into his 70s.
You don't think he will?
I doubt it. I mean, like he's I guess like you said, he's become a little more warm to the possibility, but I don't see a 75-year-old Bill Belichick sitting on the sidelines and being able to A, do as good of a job, and B, enjoy what he's doing.
Okay. Well, if you do the math, let's say he gets 10 wins in the regular season for the next 5 years. That puts him at 50. Then let's say you add on 5 postseason wins, which with 5, 10, and 6 seasons, you should expect him to get 5 postseason wins out of that, I would think. Maybe not, but that would tie him. So that means he has to coach 5 more years. I think it's reasonable.
I think it's impossible. I think more to Patrick's point, I just don't see him enjoying coaching for 5 more years. Like, as unhappy as Bill Belichick generally seems, the last year, really he's even like he never seems like he's enjoying anything that he's doing. And maybe that's unfair for me to say as a fan that doesn't really know him at all. But yeah, I mean, if you're clearing 70, you don't have Tom Brady. You're having to transition to a bunch of new players now and essentially start over as you're approaching 70. How enjoyable is this going to be, especially if maybe 2 years from now it's not as easy as it used to be?
Yeah, and like we don't know that this team will be able to bounce back this season. We still don't know what they're going to be as much as we want to guess. And even like 2 years from now, who knows what this team's going to be. Brady, could you spit out the numbers again?
Well, actually, so I was going to mention that. I kind of got them wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Shula had 328 regular season wins. He had 347 total. Belichick is at 304 total. So he's really only 43 games away. That makes it even more reasonable, I think.
I mean, yeah, so what Belichick has going for him is the playoff success because he has 12 more playoff wins than Shula. I don't know, but I don't know how much playoff success this team's going to have. Like, how many extra games and extra chances are they going to be able to get to rack up wins?
Exactly.
In the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, if Belichick wants to do it, he's going to have to be invested. That's for sure. And who knows?
If he wants to do it, it's going to A, accelerated rebuild, and B, you're going to have to be able to stand it till you're like 73 or 75.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the one thing Belichick has going for him is there's no way he's going to get fired. Like, if he leaves, it's his choice. And I wouldn't expect the Patriots to ever fire him after all that he's done and all that he's like proven he can do. I think there's no possible rationale other than an off-field incident for him to be fired. That point is good, though, that you can't expect Belichick to pass this threshold while tanking for Trevor. So I think if you're the Patriots, you got to make that decision. I mean, I'm hoping it's not tank for Trevor, but
can we stop this narrative of tanking for Trevor Lawrence? It's not going to happen. They did not
it's not
just
going to happen.
re-sign Devin McCourty and keep Stephon Gilmore, and you still got Pat Chung, like Dante Hightower. You have an elite defense that's also not very young. Like you have one of the oldest teams, I think the oldest team in the NFL. You're not tanking unless you trade everybody. But they're even holding on to Joe Thuney on that franchise tag. They're not tanking.
They're not tanking.
No. If they stink, that's different than tanking. They might stink and go 6-10, but they ain't tanking. Another thought on the passing of Shula and the conversation of greatest coach of all time. Literally within 24 hours of Shula being, confirmed to have passed away, Larry Zonka of the 1972 undefeated Dolphins, I think he was a running back, tweets, "Hard to believe he's gone. He was such a dominant force. I fully expected he'd live to see 100. Winning was critical to him, but winning, all caps, within the rules, end caps, was more important. There was only one perfect team in the first 100 years of the NFL, and Coach Shula is the reason." Is that a shot at Belichick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it a warranted shot at Belichick?
Oh. Huh?
Is it a warranted shot at Belichick?
Yes and no. Because Spygate was a thing, but everything since has been like hearsay.
Has it?
It's all been a he said, she said, aside from Spygate.
Well, and they also mean like the stuff with messing with John Harbaugh and the eligible receiver thing.
That's within the rules.
Was it?
That was within the rules.
The punt things. He kind of pushes.
That's knowing the rule book better than everyone else.
I don't know. I can see the perspective of like this guy has to really get crafty to win.
I mean, I think it's a warranted shot. I, at the same time, just don't care, really.
Yeah.
And maybe that's being an entitled Pats fan, but I do not care about any of the cheating that he's done because he did it, and the penalties obviously weren't steep enough because they kept on winning. So I don't feel bad about it, frankly, and you can take all the shots you want, but it's not really going to affect the stance I have on Belichick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ethan. It's not going to change the fact 6 rings and then plus, what is it, 1 or 2 more? And I mean, Brady, I'm a little shocked that of the 3 of us here, you're the one entertaining this, as I think the most pro-Patriots person on this podcast.
I am the most pro-Patriots person, but you've heard me rip Brady, and I can rip Belichick too.
I'm a little shocked.
I just see the opposite frustration. I'm not one of these Patriots, meatheads that just like, yeah, you're just sad because you can't win as much as we can. Like, I can see why people would be frustrated that we have a tendency to win somewhat controversially in many ways. So
I mean, it all comes down to the hate you because they ain't you.
So are you one of those Patriots meatheads?
Not really, except for when it comes to Joe Montana and Don Shula. Just like, obviously it's sad Don Shula died, but whenever you heard from the guy in the last 5 years, and whenever you hear from Joe Montana these days, it's always something about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick about why they're not better than them because of these controversies. It's just ridiculous.
I don't know. I can understand why people would have an asterisk next to Belichick.
Delicious.
But that said, it still just kills me that they didn't finish that undefeated season. Because those stupid 72 Dolphins still dangle that above everybody every year.
Not even a great team.
The Dolphins
are
like the most
all-time team.
The Dolphins, that perfect season is the equivalent of the Marlins winning 2 World Series while trying to tank.
I don't quite get that.
I would say.
Well, the Marlins had the 2003 World Series and the 97 World Series, I think. But whenever that second one came, it was it's kind of like what Derek Jeter and the new ownership did to the club now, where they literally just sold off everything humanly possible, and then they somehow still won.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's impressive. What did the 72 Dolphins do? I don't know enough about them.
No, I'm just saying it's just the most random, most obsolete.
They didn't really deserve it, but it kind of happened.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't. Again, I'm not enough of a football historian. I'm sure Belichick could tell you about it.
Neither am I. I'm just saying, the Dolphins, their reputation these days just kind of precedes them.
Interesting. And that's something with Shula too. For all those wins, not enough Super Bowl titles. people hold that against him. But I do think that the wins and the way that he won could be held against, or could put him over Belichick and the way that he has won. Maybe, like with the greatest quarterback of all time, sometimes going against the rules and just kind of really going on that line of not cheating, but kind of bending the rules in some ways. I just see the frustrations. That's all I'm saying. So,
yeah, I think.
Yep.
Oh, I think that. I mean, if we're comparing these two, I think Shula at least has a little bit more ground to stand on than like Joe Montana. Montana lost the greatest quarterback battle 5 or 6 years ago. Shula, at least you could still, like, if you put him above Belichick, or if you put a couple guys above Belichick, I'm not gonna like hunt you down with a pitchfork. Yeah. But Brady won the quarterback battle a long time ago, and I think that's more of the old man yelling in the cloud thing than Shula, who at least he's still got like a solid case.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that.
And that's another reason too. We go all the way back now, circle of conversation, to why Belichick might keep coaching. Like, Brady could retire after this season because he stuck it to Belichick by going somewhere else, and he's already accomplished everything a quarterback can accomplish. Belichick has not gone to the top of the coaching pyramid yet, so that's why he would keep going. So there you go.
Depends how much he cares.
Yeah, and so we'll find out. But that was kind of one of the latest storylines that I wanted to bring up. And I think that's it in terms of current sports, but we had a different idea. Oh, wait, no. One more current sports thing. Jaroslav Halak is in for another year. Good news for the Bruins, right, Patrick?
Yeah, it's great news for the Bruins. It's a bargain. His base salary is $2.25 million. I think it could be as high as $3.25.
Yeah, I think they could tack on another $1 million. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to fact check me on that. But either way, like if it ends up being $3.25 million against the cap or $2.25, like I still think it's a good deal for the Bruins. I mean, 1 year, if it ends up being $3.25 million, then you're paying more for the less term. That's just kind of how it has to work these days. But I mean, I thought he was gonna get at least $4 million on the open market this summer. And I don't know whether it's like there wasn't enough market for a guy who's 34, 35, something like that. But we've seen goalies, for whatever reason, able to kind of maintain good performance levels later in their careers. But I think it helps. Like obviously through all the comments he said, loves Boston. His kids love it here. He's settled in. Likes the group, and obviously the on ice has paid dividends. I didn't say that right. But I think it just kind of everyone's like, whoa, thought he was going to test the open market. I mean, there's whether it's he didn't think he was going to get it or all this uncertainty these days. I think it was just a matter of both sides just wanting to have the security blanket.
Yeah.
If that's, I guess I got to my point eventually.
No, I get it. And he's going to be 35 years old. He doesn't have a cup yet, right?
Nope.
So I understand why he wants to stay in one of the best situations. And short term for the Bruins, yes, this is great because you've had one of the best goaltending duos in the NHL since he's been here. But my only concern is that you're coming into an offseason where you're going to be pinching pennies to keep around Torrey Krug, a major part of your defensive unit, and your power play, and just a guy who just screams like Boston Bruins, just the way that he plays, and a consistent producer. You're going to be really stretching your budget, especially if the salary cap is lower than expected, to try to keep him around. So why would you bring back a goalie who is pretty hefty price tag when you have potentially the future and Jeremy Swayman pretty much ready to go, it feels like?
Because Jeremy Swayman is not ready to go at the NHL level.
No? He saw the most shots of anyone.
Absolutely not. I will not entertain the fact that Jeremy Swayman could be in the NHL this year. He will not be in the NHL at all this year.
He wouldn't be in the NHL as a starter, but he could.
No, he wouldn't.
Why not?
If you were looking for in-house options, it was going to be Dan Vladar first.
I love Darth Vladar, but Swayman is ready.
Swayman is – oh, my God. I can't believe you're saying this. He's not ready. He's not ready.
He was the best goalie in college hockey.
In college hockey.
One of the best offensive
college hockey
divisions, conferences. Yes, college hockey.
In college hockey.
Get to the pros.
The pros in college hockey is completely different. Jake Ottinger was one of the best goaltenders in Hockey East last year for the last 3 years. He's doing an entire year in the AHL.
He
Like,
wasn't
that's just
flaming
the
though.
track goalies have to take. Goalies have to get that seasoning, whether it's in the AHL or even the ECHL. Like, it's just a development track they have to take to adjust to a pro game, a pro schedule, the mental side of things of how much grueling the schedule is compared to college, and the level of competition they're seeing.
All right, so I'll modify it for you. And Ethan, I'm sorry for excluding you here. Feel free to chime in if you want.
No, this is interesting. I can't add anything, but I'm enjoying listening.
Well, if you don't want Swayman to be the full-time backup and playing once a week or whatever it would be, it wouldn't even be that often probably, then why not platoon him and Darth Vladar as the backup? And you can have them both on two ways because that's what they both deserve. You can save some money, and you can have kind of a competition there for the next guy up. I think it helps everybody out.
Because once Jeremy Swayman plays up like 10 games or something, there's a certain amount of games he becomes waiver eligible.
Oh.
Dan Vladar is already waiver eligible, to my knowledge. I could be wrong.
That throws a wrench in my plan.
And even then, if you're not going to send them down, there's no sense throwing Kyle Kaiser into the fire in Providence. And there's no sense, like, if we're talking about winning a Stanley Cup, we're talking about practice. Like, we're talking about winning a Stanley Cup. You're not going to be throwing two guys who have zero NHL experience in behind Tuukka Rask. We've seen the formula is to keep them below 50 games, like 45 to 50. That's the sweet spot. Who has the best chance of helping you win games when they have to play? That's Jaroslav Halak.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. Short term, you need wins. He's your guy. And he's been, of all the backups that they've had in here who have had success beyond Boston, he has been the best at getting a lot out of Tuukka Rask, and that's the most important thing.
And we've done this conversation before with a hotshot young goaltender coming up. I'd liken him to Vladar, I guess, where Nicholas Svedberg blowed. He sucked. In his NHL career, huh? Whatever. Whatever. His NHL career, done. He's in Europe now. He was so bad. Like, that's what happens when you try and bring these kids up too quickly, who either A, it's too early, or they just can't play at all.
Okay.
At the NHL level.
You better be careful because with a 1-year extension for Halak, both he and Rask will be unrestricted free agents for the 2021-22 season. So you could be looking at a totally new goaltending situation in just 2 years.
So to that, I don't buy the Rask will retire after this contract. I just find it hard to believe. I can see why he would. But for me, this scenario, it's kind of like what I talked about with Spencer Knight in the Florida Panthers when he was drafted, where the timeline kind of works out almost too perfectly. Like by the end of next season, going into 21-22, I'd imagine you let Halak walk, Rask gets like a 2-year extension, and you have the bridge from Rask to Swayman, Rask to Vladar, Kaiser, whoever it happens to be. I think that's what the timing is going to end up being.
It's going to be a little dicey, but I think this just, even cements the window that you have here to win a cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I don't think it's a question anymore that the window for this core ends next season. I don't think that's any question at this point. And that's why Halak got a 1-year deal. You're trying to maximize whatever is left of this. And that's why I'm not very much kind to entertaining the idea of a Jeremy Swayman or a Dan Vladar coming up and playing meaningful games.
Right. Okay. Well, good goaltending debate there, Patrick. That's kind of our specialty. We are great at debating Bruins goaltenders. The Celtics don't have anything going on, really. So maybe Jason Tatum finally got his hoop shipped. That would be helpful.
Apparently he didn't shave.
On the NBA note, they are opening on Friday.
What?
In areas permitting.
Where?
Really?
Mark Stein, I think it was Woj who originally reported it that the NBA was looking at May 8th in areas that permit it for teams to open facilities, and obviously very strict guidelines and limitations to what you can do. And then last night, Mark Stein kind of confirmed the report that in areas permitting, the NBA will reopen team facilities on Friday.
Well, that's good. See, things are starting to look up. I like it. All right, we're at about the 50-minute mark. maybe a little bit below it. So I'm wondering, do you folks want to get into the random topic that we had chatted about, or do you want to call it?
I mean, I think that Jeremy Swayman take might be one of your most controversial takes.
Oh my gosh. So we're doing it, are we?
I mean, I guess, unless we want to save it, it depends how long you want the show to go.
It'll probably take us 10 more minutes. It'll be great.
All right. Well, I still haven't thought of mine, so you and Ethan can just spew yours.
All right. What we were going to do is talk about our most controversial sports opinion, not political, nothing too terrible. I don't think we have any terrible beliefs. I sure hope not. But something that we kind of have deep inside there that we believe that we're maybe not that proud of, but it's something that we think is it's kind of a hot take that we have. Ethan, you haven't talked in a while, so I'll let you have the floor first.
Okay, I have two. Would you rather? I said them both to you.
First
Which one is? Okay, my take. I've only thought of this from the NBA perspective. I haven't really thought about it as far as other leagues go.
Oh boy.
But my thing I want to see happen that will never happen is abolishing drafts. At least in the NBA, I haven't thought about this as far as like lots of rounds, like especially the MLB. I don't know how it would work, but abolishing the draft, giving young players full freedom of where they want to go, essentially making them free agents. As soon as they hit the eligibility requirement, they can declare that they want to be a free agent, and teams can just go after them and sign them. So that is my proposal. And there's obviously, first thing that comes right off the bat as far as a question mark is, does this mean everyone just goes to LA and New York or whatever sport you're playing, the largest market? I'm going to say no, because declaring them as a free agent means that their salaries are also subject to the salary cap. So a team like LA, or the Lakers, who are strapped for salary, could barely offer what a team like Charlotte could to maybe give a rookie like a $20 million contract to have them be the franchise. That's risky, but it gives them, that's the incentive for the player to go to a smaller market that maybe has more cap space. It also plans for free agents. Free agency becomes a whole different ballgame when you have veterans and rookies that you're looking to sign. Free agency would be so much fun. Two, I think that obviously there's no testing on this, but I think that players, especially when you're younger, you want to be the face of a team to kind of show like you have what it takes. So you're not going to, if Zion's not just going to go and play in LeBron and Anthony Davis' shadow, he can go and be like the guy, especially in like New York with the Knicks. That would also make the Knicks a much more relevant franchise, which is good for the NBA. Or like what the Jets or the Giants, who have generally been pretty bad franchises, make them much more popular, which is good for the NFL, or so on and so on for whatever market and whatever sport you want to play. So it empowers the players. It allows them to make more money. It also supports team fit over like trying to balance stock in the draft, which has always been kind of a weird thing to think about. And I think overall it just is more how a work environment works, where you're signing to play or you're signing to work for an organization. You're not declaring for an organization to place you wherever you want, where you don't really get a choice to negotiate your salary and you don't really get a choice of where you want to be. There's more freedom in abolishing a draft. And I think there's a lot of concerns at first, but I think those concerns wouldn't end up mattering.
I have a lot of rebuttals for you. Patrick, do you have anything?
Okay.
I think you raised some good points. I mean, I'm all for empowering the players. I very much agree with those points. I mean, free agency would be exciting, yes, but there's just such the potential for it to be a crapshoot where organizations are just totally decimated in one day.
Right.
And while I do like the power to the players, there's like, there's like you said, like, if done properly, players wouldn't flock to New York and LA and like maybe even Boston, but like there's still that potential. And whether like the NHL, MLB, and where there's a lot of players being selected, I don't know the logistics of that feeding system into the league. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm kind of on the same idea there of like freedom to the players, sure, make your money, whatever. But I also think that these leagues are kind of built on the ability to underpay young players, whether it's the NHL and those, wonderful rookie contracts that you can have, some top talent. Cale Makar probably making pennies right now, but he's really helping out, with the Avalanche. You're going to look it up, I know. But, like, you can bring in players and pay them.
Well, he's making $925K. I know that off the top of my head. That's his base.
See, like, if he were a free agent, he would have made a whole lot more than that. But it certainly helps the team that the standard that he doesn't make that much. So having players just go to the open market right off the bat, I think would make them get some crazy salaries, which would also put the team in more of a, I guess, investment danger or like financial jeopardy, perhaps. Because then let's say, like, we don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be that great. He had a good year at LSU, obviously, and he was number one pick, consensus pretty much. But can he translate at the next level? I don't know. However, the last year is going to command a pretty ridiculous salary for him. So, any team that could be the top bidder, maybe it would have been the Patriots. Who the heck knows? I think it's a big, amount of money to throw at a kid who hasn't really proven himself as a professional. And then my last thing for you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Saying that like Zion is going to want his own team. He's not going to want to go play with LeBron and Anthony Davis. I think he would. I think unless you have a ridiculous ego, which maybe Zion does, I don't know. I think players would be more inclined to chase the stars so that they can learn from LeBron and Davis, who two players that Zion's game kind of follows in some ways. I think you would learn from them for a couple of years and then go start your own team. I don't think you'd want your own team right off the bat.
Okay. So
we'll let you respond to it, and then we'll get on to mine for the sake of time.
Okay. My thoughts on those. The question about how it affects free agency and player salaries, I think that one makes it extremely interesting because all of a sudden as you said, it's investment. And I think that's just an extremely interesting way to look at what is the risk that you're taking if you're going to spend your money on a low player. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's fantastic as far as speculation for a league. Now it could, again, extremely backfire and destroy a franchise if you don't think it's going to work out. But one, this values team fit more than anything. And two, I don't think salaries will be that crazy because there is that inherent risk. I think in some cases, like let's say Connor McDavid went to the open market right away. Yeah, he's going to like blow up and people are going to offer him ridiculous amounts of money without him ever playing a pro game. But I think that's fine. I don't see the problem with that at all, especially if it's a generational talent like McDavid. Another thing is this doesn't reward failure because it's an open market. So if you're a successful team, one, that's going to raise your value for younger players too. They'll be more interested to go to a team with a winning culture. And three, yeah, there are going to be some stars that learn under players that want to either learn under players so they go to a championship organization like the Spurs in San Antonio, who are not a large market, or you're going to get people that want to just go chase the market like LA, and that's going to happen. I think it's rare. And I also think the trickle-down effect is, what if you're a veteran that wants to trek out on your own and not say, oh, it's because you're getting all the top young talent that they're propping you up. Then let's say you're a veteran like, I don't know, Gordon Hayward or that type of level, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and they're getting propped up by talent, and you want to say, hey, I can do this on my own. I'm in my prime. I'm going to go set out and like save a team that's not that great. I think it makes everything so much more interesting on top of giving players the incentive to choose where they want to work.
So on the point about winning culture and not rewarding failure, how do the bad teams then like get better? I mean, obviously, like if players
the bad teams don't get better.
But
like let's look at the Knicks. The Knicks, they're never good. The Sixers, it took them years to be this good. Look at the teams in the NFL. The Jets suck every single year. The Bengals are horrendously bad, and maybe Burrow turns that around, so they luck into this crazy guy. It's the same teams at the top of the draft every single year. Honestly, no matter what sport.
Incentive for players to sign with those teams.
Right.
You bring in coaches and other players and people that know how to manage a team, so you're not the Knicks sitting there with James Dolan and the same GMs over and over, or you're not the Senators sitting with the same owner and the same guys over and over, and you're just not getting anywhere. It forces. Is it because they've spent years and years of swinging and missing on prospects?
Well, I wouldn't say the Senator like a lot of people forget the early 2000s to like 2009 Senators were a powerhouse. They just never won a cup. They were always like great regular season teams. But for like the last 4 years, they've kind of been a joke because of the owner. But I mean, a lot of it lately has been staying out of the news, which they have been. I mean, like it's all relative. Like to what we see in the NBA, in the NFL, like the Senators aren't really that bad. It's just in the NHL where like they're under a microscope and like anything against the status quo is kind of bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as far as like the outlook on the future, it's a lot more encouraging this year.
Okay. Well,
A lot of
then I
homegrown
guess,
talent.
yeah, I guess I'm thinking I know it would be easier for the NBA and the NFL to abolish the draft because you don't have a feeder system. And the NBA, I guess you barely do, but it's not really there yet. The NHL, I would see it being a little bit easier because you could market to a young prospect and say, hey, we can put you in this situation. We have the best development track. I don't really know if that is as much as a selling point as I think it is for the NHL. It also depends on, I could see there being an issue with corruption saying like, hey, if you sign with us, we can help you get to this college so that you can have a fantastic college career. And I feel like that could be a problem. MLB is the one where it's hard because you're not seeing a person's face after they're drafted for another 3 or 4 years. So I think it's extremely feasible in the NFL and NBA. NHL, it could happen, but I think there are more legitimate concerns with the NHL. MLB, it's just way too confusing, so I don't expect it to happen there.
Interesting. That's got me thinking now. But thank you for sharing that, Ethan.
I have never shared it before, so
yes, exactly.
That's a goal.
I think a good idea would be to make this into a series, kind of like we did the jerseys, and so each of us presents a different take each week, rather than going through right now and going deep beyond the hour mark, which we are very quickly approaching. Sound good?
Okay.
That'll give Patrick
think
more
so.
Time to think of
too.
one. What?
That'll give you more time to think of yours too. Alrighty. So we'll be back next week with either Patrick or my hot take that we have just brewing endlessly and that we're finally going to get out there. So stay tuned for that one. Ethan certainly started it off on a hot note. So we'll see.
I like the idea of it, Ethan, man. I just don't know the logistics.
Right.
Same. I'll have to research it more. I'm on a Reddit thread right now.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I think that's it for today's show. Any and ones that we're missing?
NASCAR 2 weeks.
Yeah, NASCAR is coming back. Like golf, it's pretty easy to do NASCAR while social distancing, I think. And the NHL draft, we're going to have a decision soon about whether it's going to happen in June. It's looking like it. The league has kind of put it out to front offices where like, hey, you have a choice, but not really because we want to make this happen in June, which is getting a ton of pushback from front offices. Rightly or wrongly, I'm still not sure if I want the draft delayed or not. But the way the lottery will work and selection, I guess the process is going to be pretty interesting. But I can get the details and elaborate next week. I'm assuming we'll have a decision next week as well, so that'll help.
Does it make sense to have the draft without having made a decision on the season yet?
So I mean, if you're looking at the organizations, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, kinda, because I mean, I don't know if Brady watched it, but I remember like seeing the behind the B when they were in the room watching, like when they made the decision to trade Tyler Seguin. That was during the Stanley Cup final against Chicago. Like a lot of these teams are getting, like, while the playoffs are going on, a lot of their teams are getting their off-season plans and where they're going ready, especially for the draft and free agency, which happened like really quickly. So I think that's a little bit of a headache because free agency is turned upside down, the salary cap's turned upside down. You don't really know what the situation is going to be. So for organizations, I understand why there's a ton of pushback, but for the players getting drafted, I think it really helps like because I kind of brought it up last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, but like whether it's going to development camps, who knows if those will happen, or just like your general summer training, it's like kind of when you get drafted, you kind of do it by the NHL's club's training. That's at least what I'm led to believe. So I think the June draft makes the most sense for the prospects. I don't know if it makes the most sense for the teams.
Interesting. Well, we'll have more on that next week because you think a decision will be made by then. That'll be interesting.
I don't know if it's confirmed, but like a lot of like pretty much all the insiders have been saying like the decision is this week.
Oh, alrighty.
The memo was sent last Friday about how we can make this happen, and the decision, the word I guess is expected is for the end of the week.
Yeah. We also have the NFL schedule coming out tomorrow night in a 3-hour premiere event. Yay.
That's pretty dumb.
I am not watching that.
No, I'll see it after. But we will have plenty to discuss on next week's episode, which will so happen to be episode 50, which is wild. So
it took us over a year to get to 50 of Beantown Banter, and then we're here. We already are at 50
already. Well, twice a week will help.
Yeah, that helped
for the first like 30, whatever it was. So, but that is it for today, everybody. So thank you so much for watching and/or listening, and we will see you next week for episode 50.